Good morning. I'm looking for people to come and join in and play Taboo. And so until they come, I'll start describing a word. Level 1. What shall we have today? Well, aha, yes, I see something. Level 1. It's a kind of container. It's used to keep liquid in. Sometimes it has something around it to keep it warm, like a tank that's lagged to keep it warm. But not usually. I think sometimes it's just there and it's got a handle and you can actually pour out some liquid. The name of the liquid is part of the name of the object. It's a common liquid, a kind of refreshment. A kind of refreshment that comes from plants in India and China and other places. So what is the word? I'll start describing my level 2 word if people aren't coming at the moment. So that was a level 1 visible object. That's just something you can just see, and when you see it you will recognize it. It has a kind of compound name. The container has a name, but the first part of the name is what is contained. And the name of the container, the second part of the word, this is often used with flowers or some kind of collection of money. A collection of money can be this too. Oh, somebody is there. Hello, Sarah. Yeah, the first one, I'm still doing the first one, actually. It's just a simple visible object used to carry liquid. So hot liquid from a kettle goes into it. Hot liquid from a kettle goes into it, and a kind of leafy plant goes into it.
Sorry, could you start again describing, because I haven't heard?
Okay then, I'll describe again with my headset on this time. So, hi Igor. Yeah, hi. This is a simple object. They're usually quite decorative actually. And they have a handle and they have a spout. Maybe you don't know the word spout.
Yeah, we don't know.
A spout is a place where liquid comes out, like a kind of pipe with an opening.
Okay.
Now the object is used to keep liquid in it, ready to go into cups.
Bottle?
No, it's used to carry a certain kind of drink, and this drink comes from a plant that grows in China and in India and Sri Lanka.
So what plant?
Well, it's a bushy kind of plant, and you pick certain leaves off it, and from the leaves you make the drink.
What is the name of this plant?
Well, if I give you the name, I can't give you the name of the plant, because the name of the plant is also the name of the drink, which is the name of the container. The second part of the container name is something which flowers go in.
What is the meaning? Flowers go in.
Flowers, when you take them from the garden into your house, you put them in a container.
Okay.
And I see my answer.
Teapot?
Teapot. Teapot was level 1 answer. Okay, so now I'm going to do level 2. Now, it's an adjective, and it can be used to show some kind of magical attraction. The middle part of this word sounds like the French word for song, and if you have a magic spell and you use a magic spell on somebody, you could use this word in a certain way. So if you really, it's quite a nice word, I think. If you see something that's really beautiful but in a kind of magical way, you could use this word.
Magnificent?
No, the middle of this word contains, I don't know if you know any French words, but the French word for song is close to this, but there's a kind of singing you might hear where people are not singing, but they're making a nice noise, and this word is inside this word I'm looking for, kind of magical singing.
Sorry, could you describe again what you described?
Yeah, so I'm looking for an adjective,
Okay.
and in the center core of this adjective is this word that I need. Actually, it sounds like the word for, in business, when you put on the wall a poster and it's got lots of information graphically presented. So what word can you think of to describe something that shows graphical information? For example, in a circle, just segments of it are shown in a pie. A pie.
Chart?
Yeah, it sounds like chart, but one letter is different. And it's a word for singing.
Chor? Choral.
Change one of the letters in chart to get a singing kind of word.
Chor.
No, the beginning is right, but okay, let me think of another way. So if you can use this word with a negative prefix. If you discover that something which you were happy with is actually not that good, then you can say that you are dis this. So it's used with a dis prefix to show that you're no longer happy with it. Something went wrong with it, and now you're not happy. So what's that word that sounds like singing?
Choir.
Not choir. No, it's
CHOIR.
Yeah, that's a noun anyway. But I want a kind of verb to mean sing. And it sounds like chant. Chant, it is chant. I meant to say then it sounds like chart. So I've cheated a little bit. So my second word has the word chant in it. Chant. Okay. So it's a participle adjective, and it means that it's really wonderful and quite magical. Let me see what the dictionary says. Affected by magic or seeming to be affected by magic. They met in Paris one afternoon in early autumn. So use the word chant and make an adjective, and then you have it.
Chanty?
Yeah, but you need to put a little prefix in front of it. So chanting is just part of the word, or chanted, but you need something at the beginning to say it's magical. If you say it's chanting, it sounds like it's singing. So you need another word. It makes you sing. So a little prefix at the beginning to change this word around. And the prefix is used on other words as well. For example, the same prefix is used with the word courage if you give somebody courage. If you give somebody courage to do something, you put, yeah, that's the one, enchanted. Enchanted, that was the word.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a new word, Igor. So let me try a quick level 3. So what shall I do for level 3? Let me try one that's not too long. I just thought of one that I'm going to try to keep level 3 down to about 3 or 4 words. So, yeah, I wrote one just now actually. 5 words. It means that somebody's son or daughter or children inherit a lot of the characteristics of their parents. And you say this if you notice that one of the children is pretty much like their father in his habits and the way he behaves. You say that he is a dum-dum-da-dum-dum.
One word?
No, 5 words. The first word is something that comes from potatoes if you slice them and fry them.
Something apple is not
If you
far
take
from the...
yeah, it has a similar meaning to that. It has a very similar meaning that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but it's not that one. And the first word is something that breaks off something. So, for example, if I have my teapot, if I wash it and quickly and get it next to the tap, and the tap is metal, and the tap hits here, then it spoils the teapot because it makes a kind of break. What is that word? A little piece comes off. And it's also something we eat with fish, fried from potatoes.
Chips?
Chip. Yeah, I want it as a verb though. So chip, you say he is and the first word is chip, and if the next word is a kind of preposition, it's now detached from it. So not with it anymore, but away from it. Or so something you do to the TV. You turn it on, but then you...
He is a chip of the old block.
That's the way. A chip off the old block. Good work. So now it's your turn. That's good. He's a chip off the old block. Let's just write that. I just used that this morning because somebody made a joke about Idaho and potatoes. And just have you heard the joke about he's just a commentator?
No.
A common potato. It's a joke on words. He's just a common potato, and we said he's a commentator, a chip off the old block. He is a chip off the old block. So, are you ready with one?
Me?
Yeah. Do you have one ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So your turn then.
So the the meaning of this word is that it's a noun, and the meaning of this word is that a community, for example, grows very fast, and in that community we can see new houses, for example, people who live better with greater salaries.
Right. See, are you on? See, Messa, are you on the mic there? Messa, are you on the mic? Seems like just you and me now, Igor. We need some more people in the room.
Si Messa.
See, Messa, are you there? She doesn't seem to have a mic.
Something we hear, but
Hello? Hello, see, Messa. Where are you from? Okay, well, so I have to guess then. I don't want to be the only guesser. So, how many words did you say, Igor?
one word.
One word, so it can't be Boomtown.
Yeah, it's this word.
It is Boomtown.
Yeah. How did you guess so fast?
I thought Boomtown was 2 words. Is it just 1 word?
Yeah, it's one word made of 2.
Okay. So, I'll have to do another one because we're on our own here. I don't know what's happening today. Things are happening, aren't they? I don't know what. So, let me try to do a level 1. A level 1 word. Yes, 2 word. Actually, it's not level 1. It's level 3 because it consists of 2 words. So it's very easy though because it's actually a visible noun. So it is something which I see on my tray. The fruit has disappeared from it, and it used to be wrapping the fruit. So what is one word for something which goes around some fruit?
Where do you see this word? On the tray?
On the tray.
What is tray?
My tea tray.
What is tea tray?
My tea tray is a tray. You know, a tray is a little thing that you carry.
Oh. Okay.
So when you go to Spanish class, you get. Look, I'm going to remove the object that's on the tray, and look, this is a tray. Can you see?
Yeah, I understood what it.
So you know, you sometimes get into funny conversations because I was speaking to somebody from Spain the other day about tray, and they have a word like tray in Spanish, and I said to a man in Spain, could you just put those on the trays, on those trays, put the cups on those trays? And the Spanish man kept trying to correct my Spanish and saying, no, on those trays. So he thought I was trying to count, and I was saying on those trays, on those trays. This is the tray, but I've removed the other thing which was on the tray because it will go in the bin later. It might go into the compost heap. It might go onto the compost heap for the garden because it can decompose and be good for the garden. So, but earlier there was a fruit inside it. It's a kind of yellowish, blackish colour. What is a word for something that contains the fruit? It wraps the fruit.
Wraps?
Well, yes, and potatoes, you know, like the skin part of fruit. There's a special word for the potato skin or the apple skin or other fruit. And what is that word?
So this is your word?
No, tray is not my word.
No, I
But
mean
the word, I have
potato.
two words, and one of the words is a fruit. The first word is a fruit, but the 2 words together describe the two words together describe this outer skin, the skin around the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And that word is used for not strawberries, soft fruit don't use this word. Grapes use skin usually, but we don't normally take that skin off. But some fruit has the outer skin removed, and this has a name.
Peel?
Yeah, so all we need is the fruit that goes before peel. And it's something slippery in cartoons. If it's on the floor, somebody goes whoop.
Banana?
Banana peel, yes, banana peel, because I had a banana just now. Let me try calling on Simesa again. Simesa, can you take the mic? No. Okay. So, Igor, it's back to you. See if people can guess Igor's word in the chat, because we've got one or two people in the chat. That's good. Hope you can.
But I don't have word yet. Could you do another word?
I'll do another one then. Okay. What should I do? I shall do. Yes, it's two words again. The first word describes the usage of it and the place where it goes, and the second word describes more what it is. So I'll do the second word first of all. This word is very common. All kinds of sheets of plastic or wood or metal have this word. There is also a homophone of this word, which means you are fed up and disinterested in it. You just don't want to do it. But my word is something that you could write on in class, or you could pin things up on the notice one. There's a notice one, there's a white one, there's a black one.
Table?
Not table. So what word has different types of them? One of them is a white one, which these days replaces the old black one, which was messier with chalk. And sometimes you put pins with bits of paper for people to read on the notice one. And the homophone is a word which means you are fed up.
Board.
Yeah.
Board.
So all I need is the first word before board. It's a building material, and it goes not on the ceiling, but under your feet.
Floor?
Floorboard.
So what is the meaning of floorboard?
A floorboard is a piece of wood which forms the floor. So sometimes you have these big wooden beams, a wooden beam, and then you need a floor to walk on. So across the beams you put some wood. You put down floorboard. Fix them very close together, and then they cramp in together and they make a smooth surface. So floorboard was my word. Whiteboard, yes, and blackboard were the other words that I used for board. And if you are fed up with something, the homophone is spelt different. Bored. So if somebody is bored with art, then they are probably a drawing board. That's a joke. So, what about another word, Igor?
I searched, but let me ask you a grammar question. Or is
Sure, yeah, because we're not too busy at the moment. I don't know what's going on today.
I don't know either. It's correct to say? I don't know either. Yeah?
I don't know either, or I don't know either. I say either, but you can say either or either. So, yeah, that's correct. But ask me a grammar question.
Yeah.
This game is much better when there's a whole load of people.
Yeah. But I see. I think it's because of tickets. System.
Things are changing all the time, and nobody knows what's going on. So it's something to do with that, yes. And I noticed today there were more changes. Anyway, what's the question?
Yeah, the question is next. What is the difference if I say, for example, I done or I have done. What is the difference between these two compositions?
I done. I done.
Yeah, I done, I have done.
Yeah, I think really when people say I done it, it's kind of a mistake in a very strict sense, but really it's probably the contracted speech form you're picking up. Like I've done it. You know, because if someone says I've done it, you don't hear much of the I've done it, and many times I've heard people say a native speaker said I done it, but actually they're probably, I'm not saying they didn't say that, but they're probably saying I've done it, and there's a kind of small little vert in there. I've done it.
No, I mean not pronunciation. For example, I fixed that, for example, or I have fixed that. What is the difference if I would say to someone, I have fixed that, or I fixed that without have?
Well, this case is different, because if I look at this example now, the verb I have fixed and I fixed, then you didn't use in the second part, I fixed. You could say that is the simple past, but when you say I done, then the simple past is I did. So these two examples are different. But if we want to speak about the difference between the present perfect and the past simple and when to use them, if I hear somebody say I fixed it, then they are concentrating on, they're focusing on that action in the past. So there are ways that you might want to do that, to tell everybody that it was you, not that anybody else. So I fixed it. He didn't fix it, I fixed it. But if you say I have fixed it, then you're concentrating more on the situation that now it is fixed. So you could probably, in lots of cases, you can choose which one to use. There are some times when you have to make the right choice between the present perfect and the past simple. But this one, the difference could be something like that. I fixed it. If you're telling somebody what the situation is, that now it's fixed, then probably you should say, I have fixed it. I fixed it now.
Or for example, I have visited that class yesterday, or I visited that class yesterday. What is
here you must say I visited, because with a word like yesterday, that commits you to the past simple, to a simple form. So I visited that class yesterday, you must say there. That's one case where you can't use you can't use a present perfect form with yesterday.
Okay.
So you can use a past perfect form with yesterday if you think about how to do that, but you can't use a present perfect form with yesterday or a fixed time in the past. Yeah, there are lots of differences between the present perfect and the past simple. One of the differences I like to look at the sentence is, have you been to France and did you go to France? Do you know the difference between those?
Have you ever been to France?
Yeah, the ever is just a little extra word. It doesn't really change a lot.
It's implying that from the past till this moment, if you ask, have you been to France? But if did you do to France? Did you do?
Oh, sorry. Did you go?
Did you go to France? It's implying that.
This one is focusing on a past event. So there must be some understood past event. For example, everybody went on a trip to France last week, and you know about that. Okay. If you use a past simple, then you are referring to a particular event in the past. Okay. So if the school trip went to France, then you can use the past simple, asking about it.
So we know about something that was in the past.
Yeah, so
About what, yes.
the listener understands us when we say, "Did you go to France?" That we are speaking about the recent trip, which everybody was told about.
For example, he said that I visited Europe, and you ask, did you go to France when you visited Europe?
Yes, that's good. Yes, because you're focusing on a particular past event. So then you are fine to use the past simple. And actually, questions normally start without knowing too much. And so that they usually resolve to the past simple. They start off with a present perfect. Have you been to France? If you don't know anything, that's the right question. And then later, yes, I have. When did you go? So then they go towards the past simple.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I have quite a lot of grammar sentences to discuss, actually, here and there. Do you have any more grammar questions or grammar sentences?
Yeah. What is the meaning? I was visiting New York. What is the meaning of this phrase? I was visiting New York. If I would say.
Probably, I would say that when I was describing something else that happened. So something else happened. When did it happen? Oh, well, I was visiting New York when this happened. So I was visiting New York is a past simple. So we could use it that way. It sounds quite likely that somebody who says, I was visiting New York, hasn't finished the sentence yet. They're going to say something about what happened. So I was visiting New York when the weather turned really awful.
Mm-hmm. I was for example, I was visiting New York last year.
That would be I visited New York last year.
Visited, yes.
Yes. So if you're using the gerund form,
okay,
you're probably using it like a container. I was visiting New York at the time when something happened. This is a common structure, using the gerund as a kind of longer term past, so it contains something else.
Okay.
So we often have a gerund form of the verb to stretch out the time, and then something else happens at one point in that time. And we can use words like while. While I was visiting New York, something happened.
Okay. I see Reda has a question.
Reda, hello.
Yeah.
When do we use the future perfect? Well, it's not so common.
She's in the chat here.
Can you make a sentence? Are you on the microphone? Can you get to the microphone, Reda? What about that one for you, Igor? Can you attempt it? Can you attempt to make a future perfect sentence?
Future perfect sentence?
You know, if you think about the nature of the perfect tenses, they're fixed to a certain time and going backwards in a kind of unknown way. So the present perfect is often like from now back in time, not exactly in a continuous way always. So sometimes it's just a generally vague way of going back from the present. So then we have the past perfect, but we can have a future perfect as well.
Mm-hmm. Can I give an example of?
Well, I will give an example. So first of all, I have to take myself to that point in the future.
Okay.
So I could say something to take myself to a point in the future. By the end of this year, so now I'm fixing a time in the future. And now when I've got there, by saying by the end of this year, I can look back again in a perfect tense fashion. So I can say, by the end of this year, I will have been teaching here for over 6 months. It's a strange sentence, but you know, you could say this sentence if a big milestone was coming, but you weren't quite ready yet. Suppose in 2 days' time, you had been teaching for a whole year, and you get a special reward for that. But not now. Right now, you haven't quite made it. Then you could say, by the end of this week, I will have been teaching here for a whole year. And that is a perfect tense, but the word will puts it into the future. And by the end of this year.
Okay, I understand. Only I think this is very not common to use something like that.
No, it's not. It's not so common because it just isn't common to do that. You do. It's not difficult, not weird, but it doesn't sound totally unnatural. But it's just not usual. We don't usually describe things in this way. What's going to happen in 2 days' time, and then look back over a period. But it's fine to do that. There's no problem with that.
Okay, I have another question. For example, it's correct to ask in this way question.
Is it correct?
Is it correct to ask in this way? Have you wrote this letter?
No, because have you wrote this letter? Wrote is the past simple.
Yeah.
But the tense that you're using is a perfect tense, and the perfect tense wants to use the third form.
Written.
Written. Have you written this letter? You don't have a past simple verb form in any of the perfect tenses. That's the simple thing about it, is that they all, regardless of where they take their point from, so we've got the present perfect, we've got the past perfect, the future perfect, they all use the same structure. The only difference between them is the extra words like will or had or have. So they all use a third form of the verb, the past participle.
Have you written this letter?
Yes, but if you want to know whether they did it or whether somebody else wrote it or them, then you say, did you write this letter? Did you write this letter?
So when we say did, the verb of in that question, we do not conjugate in past tense. For example, write.
No. No.
We do not.
In a perfect tense, we don't. But the difference between have you written this letter, hang on, making spelling mistakes here, typing too quickly. Have you written this letter, and did you write this letter? Say, if I want to know whether it's finished or not, I will say, have you written it yet? Have you written it? I would use a perfect tense. But if I wanted to know whether you did it or somebody else did it, and I've got the letter in my hand, if I'm looking at the letter, okay, then I know it's been finished. So I would say, did you write this letter?
Mm-hmm. But if I do not know, have you written this letter?
If I don't...
if you don't know if it's done.
If it's, yeah, it sounds a bit strange. If I've got the letter in my hand, have you written this letter? It's not actually wrong, but probably the only thing is that people generally stick to simple tenses if they work well. And did you write this letter is much simpler. So have you written this? It's not wrong, but it's just a little bit too rich. It doesn't need to be perfect tense. So we use perfect tenses sometimes. It's best to use them when we really have to use them, and when by not using them we have a problem. But here, if I have the letter in my hand, I would just stick to simple past and say, did you write this?
Okay. So when we use did, we do not need the second verb to put in the past tense. It's always in the simple present.
Yes, that's a rule with auxiliary verbs, that if you use any kind of auxiliary verb, that takes the tense completely.
Do you mean?
I mean, if I say, do you write this letter? Did you write? The auxiliary verb is the did, do. That's the auxiliary verb.
Okay.
And that takes the tense. You don't have to put the tense into two verbs.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Only thirst.
Yes.
Okay. And for example, why you chose that dress? It's correct to ask something like that? Why you chose
why
that dress?
did you choose? Why have you chosen? But again, both of those are probably fine. You see, there's lots of times when you can use both without too much of a problem, and they have a similar meaning sometimes. But generally, if you're not sure, it's always best to stick to the simpler tense if you think there's no problem. So why did you choose that dress?
Why did you choose that dress?
That would be a bit more logical for me, I think. I don't use the present perfect unless there's a reason.
Mm-hmm. So why have you chosen the dress? Why that dress was chosen?
Yes, why have you chosen that dress well, let me think. It seems almost the same as why did you choose that dress? And so probably I would stick to the past simple. Why did you choose that one? Why did you choose that dress? Why have you chosen that dress? But you know, native speakers sometimes don't really mind too much. They could think, for them, the present perfect is not a difficult thing. So for them, they would use both ways. But as a general rule, it's best to keep things simple.
Okay.
If I say, why have you chosen that, that is the present perfect. The past perfect.
Okay.
A bit like the future perfect, I had to drive myself forward in time by saying, in 2 days' time. So the future perfect, I said, in 2 days, I'm working here for more than a year, or for a year. So this is the way I do it. I just first of all have to move myself. In 2 days' time, the preposition in, we know, goes to the future. To go back in time, how can we step back in time?
Mm-hmm.
We can use a go, or we can just use a past simple event. For example, when I got married, that takes me back in time. When I got married. How do you know that when is in the past?
How do you know what?
How do I know when I use when? There are some words which must be either the past or the future, but not now. And how do I know that this is the past, when I got married?
When I got married? Got?
Yeah, so if I say when I get married, then it's easy. We know we're talking about the future. Yeah. So when I get married, when I got married. So we use words like when for the past and the future. So now, if I fix the past, when I got married, can you make for me a past perfect structure? So you first take yourself back in time to that time, and then you use what would have been a present perfect, but now it's a past perfect.
When I have get...
So I will make a sentence. I have passed my driving test. Okay, I have passed my driving test.
Okay.
So now, somebody might be interested in the situation, not now. They might be interested in when I passed my driving test. But we might be concentrating on the time of my marriage. And they are interested to know about whether or not I had passed my driving test at that time. So how do I say it? I've said it now. Can you ask a question to ask me about the time of my wedding, and could I drive the car legally or not? What's the question?
Did you pass your driving test?
Well, that's not a good, let's put the question mark on. That's not very good, because if you use a past simple question, then you have to refer to a definite event. And this is an open question, and there is no definite event. You're not even sure about whether I can drive or not. So there is no definite event unless you saw me going to the test. If you saw me going to a test,
oh, okay,
then you could say, did you pass?
Yeah.
So
have you passed your driving test?
That's for now, but I want you to ask the question about some time ago, at the time when I had my wedding, when I got married. Can you ask me the question then, about then? Ask me the question now, but about then. So something like, start with something like...
Do you have a drive license, and it's all?
At the time of your wedding, that's one way to say this, to put me into that time.
Okay.
Blah, 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 test. So what are the words?
At the time of your wedding, did you pass the test?
No, wrong tense. You can't use a past simple now for two reasons. One is that there is no definite event. It's not good for a question which might not have an answer. It's got to be a perfect tense.
At the time of your wedding, have you...
That's the present perfect, so how do you change it into the past perfect?
Have you been?
That's the present perfect.
Oh.
Have you
ever
to France is the present perfect. So I'm going to write an example about France. This is called the present perfect. Write an example about France using a past perfect. So I'm going to step back into time. I can do the step back into time after the question, actually. Here's the step back into time before your 20th birthday. So I'm stepping you back into time and saying, had you been to France before your 20th birthday?
Had you been to France before? It's harder.
So the past changes the... So we've got past perfect, had you been, they all use been, present perfect, have you been, future perfect will be something like will you plus the present perfect, will you have been.
I have a question, Nava. For example, if we are on the road, yes, and you removed tires from your car. Yeah, how we can say you removed tires?
Taking the tires off, maybe, or
Yeah.
taking the tires off.
You taking the tires off your
To
car.
change them.
But not change. You take.
Okay.
You take.
So you've jacked up the car. You know the jack is the.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've jacked up the car and you've taken off the tires.
Yeah.
Well, the whole wheel probably. You take the wheel off, don't you?
And we come. Yeah, you take wheel. You take or removed. Wheel.
You take the wheel off.
You take the wheel off, and we, for example, come after 1 hour at home. And how can I ask you a correct question? Why did you remove the wheels?
If you know that this has definitely happened,
yeah, I saw you. I saw you.
Then you can use the past simple, but if you don't know anything, you can't. So the past simple always refers to something definite, and now it's definite. You've seen.
Yeah, I seen how you did this. So how you?
So why did you take the wheels off? Yes.
Why did you take? Yes. Why did you take?
Why did you take the wheels off?
Okay. Okay. And if I didn't see this.
Well, then the question first is, do you know that the wheels are off or not? If you don't know, you have to use a perfect tense. Have you taken the wheels off? You know, something like, I told you we need to change the wheels soon because they're getting very old. Then you don't know anything. You say, have you taken those wheels off?
Have you taken? So I do not know if you taken, but I know that they do not exist on the car, or I don't know.
If you know they've been taken off the car, you could say, did you take the wheels off?
Okay.
And you could even emphasize you. Did you take those wheels off?
Okay.
Or somebody else?
Okay.
Yeah. So you can use the past simple sometimes if you know something, but it must refer to something.
So if I know, for example, and you know about something, I have to ask, did you, and verb in present simple.
Well, I think it's a good idea to use the perfect simple. The verb in the present simple with did, because that is the past. That's the way the.
But when we use have you taken? When we use this, have you taken?
Well, if you really don't know, suppose your wife told you that you really have to change those tires pretty soon because they're getting a bit illegal, they're nearly bare. And every week she looks at this and says, you still haven't done it, have you? And then you come home, park the car in the front and come in to speak to your wife, but your wife doesn't know whether you've done it or not. Then she could say, did you take those wheels off? Because she's referring to she told you this morning.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can use the past simple, but if you really don't know anything at all and you're really just asking about nothing, then you have to use the present perfect. Have you taken those wheels off? But yeah, here again, I think you could keep it simple. You could use the past simple. There are quite a few times when you can. It means that you're focusing on something that a kind of imaginary situation that you were told to do it that day. Mm-hmm. Did you do it or not? Mm-hmm. Yes. So you can use the past simple quite a lot, but there are times when you can't use it.
So when we use have you, for example, have you written, or have you another verb, what we can say, have you walked?
I think if it's about a letter and I'm waiting and I
another example, not about letter, another verb. What verb do you know? Have you walked? Yeah, can we say something like that?
I would say, did you walk home? So if somebody came into the house and they opened the door and came in, and I didn't know how they came home, I could say, did you walk home?
Mm-hmm.
Because have you walked home is too strange now.
But when we can use this have you something did, have you and the verb. When I can use this.
If I know that they've come home right now because I see them coming in the door, that's why I say, did you walk home? Because I know they've come home.
Yeah.
So, but with the letter, I don't know if they've even started it or anything. They may have just forgotten all about it. So there I use, have you written that letter yet?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not did you write that letter.
Okay.
But you could say, did you write that letter if you had been reminded about it that very morning?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's not wrong to use it. But if it's a very general question, then have you written a letter?
Mm-hmm. So, and we use I was walking down the street while raining outside, or how we can say?
I was walking down the street
while was raining.
While it was always it for the weather. While it was raining, yes, that's okay.
Okay, or I can say I walked down the street.
You could just say it rained as well, because we don't always have to be absolutely strict. Some grammar books are a little too strict about the gerund past and the simple past, but sometimes the whole situation tells us that it lasts a little time. So you could say it was raining when I walked home, or you could get away with it rained a bit when I walked home, because we know that rain isn't just chomp, finish, so we can understand some things. So sometimes we don't have to be so strict with that, but the feeling is that the gerund is a duration.
What another questions, for example, for me, I can confuse. Can you now say what another type of questions I ask, and I may ask incorrect, so you can now...
Yeah, well, really, the present perfect is probably the one to concentrate on, because when you look at it, there are two tenses which are a little tricky: the present simple and the present perfect. So the past simple, the past perfect, they're much simpler when you understand them, but the present perfect has different ways of being used, and so really that's the one that needs a bit of practice, because we know it's speaking about the time from now into the past, but very often we know that it's right back in the past, and it's strange to think that we use the present perfect, not the past perfect. For example, I have been to university when I was younger. Why is it not past perfect? Because it's too general. We don't know, we have no fixed time in the past. We know it's there somewhere in the past. But
could you repeat the sentence?
I have been to university. Have you been to university? I mean, not just today, but in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And we use the present perfect. Why do we use the present perfect? Because it's a fixed time in the past. It's a period of 3 or 4 years in the past. Because the only thing we're interested in is whether or not that happened. We're not really interested in whether it was from 1984 to 1987. We're not interested in that. We just want to know whether or not you went there. So I could use even the past simple, but the question is better because I don't know the answer. The question is better in a present perfect tense, because the present perfect tense is the most woolly tense. So when you really don't know anything, then you can't use a past simple. So you say, have you been to university?
Mm-hmm.
Not, did you go to university? Isn't so bad, but you can also use the past simple for a period of time. So I can say, I played.
I visited New York last year. Yes.
Yeah, or I played football professionally.
But if I say I have played football, what is the meaning of this sentence?
Then it means the emphasis there is that the experience rather than the time. They're very similar. Sometimes they do allow both to be used, and you have to think about which one.
For example, basic question. I have worked as a, for example, as a construction worker. So, or I worked as a construction worker. I have worked as a construction worker. What
I think if you're just going to speak generally about it and tell us that that's part of your experience, then the present perfect is better. If you want to focus on it a bit more and tell us when it happened, then the past simple is better.
Mm-hmm. But if I want to tell only about that I have this experience, so I can say I have worked as a construction worker.
Yes, and then it means, oh, okay, well, you're experienced in that kind of work. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So this have do this that not concentrated is not concentrated the meaning on the period of time.
Yeah, so we one important thing to think about with the difference between the present perfect and the past simple is that the past simple is much more focused and the present perfect is more general and open. Don't know exactly, but yes. So then we use the present perfect.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you can use the past simple for a period of time. You can, yeah, there is a lot of crossover. And so that's, again, why I think it's better to just keep practicing. It's quite difficult to learn all of this English.
No, but I do not learn. For me, I know that I speak with mistakes, so now I I want to speak more correctly. So
yeah.
Now I asked you to understand when, and maybe in speaking I will make mistakes, but
sure,
in
yeah,
writing I will write correct because I will think about it. Okay.
Well, you know, when you make mistakes, it's good if you actually just remember after making the mistake that maybe this isn't correct. So you are doing this quite regularly with your question forms, and you're realizing, and then when I mention it, you immediately can correct yourself. This is normal. And yeah, so the problem is sometimes if you don't know that something is wrong. But now you're learning the rules, that's good. You do need to know the rules, even if you practice. Even if you learn English by just practice, you have to know the rules, because otherwise you just simply don't know whether you're right or wrong.
Yeah, and I speak with mistakes and no one corrects me.
Yeah, that's right. So you do need to know the rules, but then practice a lot and then get the rules right later.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not too well today, you know. I've got a bit of a tummy bug, and this is my only lesson today, so I'm interested in what's going on, and I'm going to just take it easy today, and then tomorrow.
So what did you have? It's correct to ask. What
some kind of bug, some kind of virus. My stomach is very bad. I can't eat anything.
I asked to correct you. What did you have?
Maybe what do you have?
What do you have?
Yes. What's wrong with you? What do you have?
What do you?
Yeah. I feel a bit weak today. I suddenly went down with something strange, so I'm going to have to be careful with myself today and just drink tea and have some fruit.
Okay.
And then tomorrow, but you know, this week, with all of the changes on Verbling, I haven't quite adapted to what's going on.
But what changes? I see one of the changes that Verbling basically introduce a new system of payments.
Yeah, for you, that's the change.
Yeah,
that change doesn't actually affect me so much. Well, it does, because the students don't all come in the same numbers and these things. So we'll have to see how things start to go, because for me things have changed too. So in the past I would just go to the charts and select my times and try to book 3 lessons a day.
Okay.
But now we're moving towards a new system of courses, and it's a kind of transition now. So I'm interested to see how it's all going to work out. I hope that we can all keep verbling together and make it into something good, but we're going through some changes at the moment, and you know, when things are changing quickly, then things can go wrong a little bit. I hope it's just temporary.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thanks for keeping my lesson alive. That was good of you.
Yeah, but I needed to know this about questions because I want to be more advanced in asking question correctly to speak.
You really ought to do my advanced English course, because it's quite practical, but it does have a lot of grammar. And I'm trying to put it out on Verbling at the moment. So, but at the moment it's that transition stage when I haven't got the course up and running so that you can see it there. So it should come out soon.
Okay.
Anyway,